Love is spiritual, not natural. You ever think about that? This is absolutely miraculous. With love, you get the results now. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Loyd, and welcome to Deep Water. This week I want to discuss social media. This is such a huge part of our world these days. I'm old and getting older, and I was recently introduced to influencers who I have nothing against, but it was explained to me that influencers have not written a book. They've not really gone out in the world and accomplished anything necessarily. Some have, some haven't. They've not, gotten a job and made a lot of money, and in the typical way we think of those things as people that would lead and guide us to better our lives. They are people who are good at becoming popular. Okay? And that was interesting to me because I remembered in elementary school and junior high school being made fun of by people in a popularity contest called school. All right? I remember when I had a full-time job working to help teenagers and their parents, to help teenagers choose the right path in life and to not get into drugs and alcohol and all that sort of thing. And then to help parents and kids become closer as a family and help each other, trust each other, things like that. And the biggest issue I had to overcome in all of those things was popularity issues and cliques and being excluded and all that stuff that affected a person's identity, worth, their view if they're a good person or a bad person, etc. And boy, was I so glad to start doing other work where I didn't have to kind of wallow in that being a slave to popularity thing. And yet here it is again. And I don't mean to paint everything with the same brush. I'm sure there's some influencers out there who are wonderful people and are helping people and are steering people to good things. I'm not saying that it's all negative. I believe it's more, and the internet and social media, I believe it's more like most things in this world, that it can be used for good, it can be used for neutral, it can be used for negative or evil. I can take a baseball bat and go in the backyard with George and pitch and play baseball and have a wonderful afternoon and make lifetime memories and laugh and hug and everything else. Or I can take that baseball bat and go to downtown Nashville and club somebody over the head with it and steal their wallet. It's not that the baseball bat inherently is good or evil. It's what I do with it and what another person does with it. Okay? The Journal of Depression and Anxiety, 2018, published a study. They found that the average person, and this is just kind of mind-blowing, that the average person these days who's connected to the internet does social media on average for 2 hours and 25 minutes a day. 2 hours and 25 minutes a day. Man, think of all the life-changing things you could do if you started working at something an additional 2 hours and 25 minutes a day. I mean, you could almost accomplish anything with 2 hours and 25 minutes a day, 7 days a week. Well, the average person who's connected to the internet 2 hours and 25 minutes a day, 7 days a week. Another study found that 67% of all social media interactions were labeled as negative by the people that were having them. They also discovered that negative interactions carry more weight with people than positive interactions, which is true, I think, in everything. Studies that are 50, 75 years old say that kids need 10 positives for every 1 negative in order to get to adulthood and be mentally and emotionally stable. Some studies have shown it's 20 to 1. But the average that kids are getting until adulthood, and this has been true for 50 years, this is not new, is 10 negatives to 1 positive. So in that sense, our general life may not be all that different from social media, but social media is certainly being an expression of that negativity that has always been there. By the way, adults, according to the studies, need 5 positives to 1 negative in order to be okay mentally and emotionally as an adult. And remember, 67% of all interactions labeled as negative. 71% of all people who have done social media have said that they have been and still are at times offended by things that, by their interaction on social media. They're literally offended by the interaction, which is a very deep hurt. There was a study a few years ago about Generation Xers and they were asking them how many friends they had. And on average in the study, they would say 50 friends, 50. That was the average. When they followed up on the question to see, okay, well, how many of those friends could you count on in a pinch, in a troubled situation where you need help? And the answer was 0 point something. But that's when they found out that those 50 friends were how many friends, followers, whatever it was, they had on social media. That's how they answered the question of how many friends they had, was friends on social media, not in maybe what you would call real life. And then in actuality, they didn't have anyone they could count on in a time where they really needed help. And that's what they found in the study. During the years from when social media started until 2017, there was a study done that found that the suicide rate had increased by 57.4%. 57.4%. By far the largest increase in the suicide rate related to anything over the last couple of 100 years. In other words, here comes social media and the suicide rate spikes. Okay, now there's argument as to, okay, is it really just that responsible for it? And maybe it's not that simple a question, but it is true that it's increased 57.4% during the social media years, which was a significant spike from any time before that. Another study dug a little deeper on that, and what they found is that and they called it the context of the social interaction, that 31% of the time it was neutral, 29% of the time the interaction was anti-suicidal. The person was being encouraged or uplifted or positive things said about them. And 11% of the time, remember this is 11% of all interactions okay? 2 hours and 25 minutes a day worth of interactions. 11% of them were pro-suicidal. Another study found overall that if you do internet or social media 3 hours a day or more, it leads to mental and emotional issues. The healthy amount of time per day, 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Now, what's the big deal about that? Well, the place we started, the Journal of Depression and Anxiety, a study published in 2018, found that the average social media for people who do social media is 2 hours and 25 minutes every day. And now we're finding that the healthy amount of time to do is 30 minutes a day. So you're looking at 5 times the amount of social media for the average person above what is healthy. 5 times more than is healthy. And then factoring in the dramatic increase of depression, anxiety, suicide, etc. So my 2 cents about this is use your baseball bat for something positive. If you're going to do social media, do the positive social media. Be part of the 29% that is anti-suicidal, that is positive, that is building people up, that is saying what is true, that is giving people the benefit of the doubt, that is not just using your 5 minutes or 15 minutes of fame, so to speak, to tear someone down or be negative about something or a conspiracy theory or things like that. Think about what you're doing. Think about, there may be someone on a computer somewhere that is seeing what you're doing, and it is having a significant effect on them as far as their mental, emotional, and even physical health. And take that as a responsibility to be part of the 89% of interactions that are not pro-suicidal, either neutral or actively anti-suicidal, which is simply saying positive instead of negative. Okay? I would love to see somebody, I don't know that I have the time to do it, and I probably wouldn't be effective at it anyway, but someone to really start a significant movement for positive social media that makes and is intended to make a positive difference in everyone's lives who participates in this social media, as opposed to what appears to be happening out there in the general population. I've spoken to a couple of media experts who I ask about the Black Lives Matter, the gender issues, the politics, especially in the United States of America. And everyone I talked to said that these problems, that there were some very good things that came out of some of these things, some things that needed to come out, some things that needed to be said. But in all 3 of those areas, the hatred, the violence, the really terrible negative stuff was all maybe not instigated, but that social media built a fire under it and fanned the flames to make it hotter, to make it more extreme, to make people more angry, to make people do violence. Not to make them, no one can make you, but to encourage violence, okay? And to me, that is so sad and so tragic because, as John F. Kennedy said in one of the most famous speeches ever, we have so much in common. We're so much more alike than we are different, okay? No matter what kind of skin you have, what color skin you have, we're all the same inside, okay? We're way more alike, DNA and in every other way, than we are different. We all breathe the same air. We all want good things for our children. We all want happiness. Almost every poll that's ever been done says that what people want most is happiness, love, joy, peace, health, etc. Well, social media can be a force for positive or a force for negative. And right now, the research, the data, the skinny is that it's doing way more negative than it is positive. So I would share today with you, hey, we can't control what other people do, but I'm going to be a force for positive. How about you? Will you join me and say on social media from now on, I'm going to be part of the solution instead of the problem. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to try to build people up, encourage people, speak the truth, not jump to conclusions that I don't know if they're true or not try to get other people angry like I am if I'm angry or if you're angry, but to try to be a force for good and not for evil. So I don't believe social media is any more evil than the baseball bat. It has wonderful possibilities and opportunities for positive just as much as negative. It's what are you choosing? What am I choosing? And way too much in the last 20 years, we've been choosing the negative. And it's gotten to a place where it's causing the literal change of our society as we know it. A 57% increase in suicide, dramatic increase in depression and anxiety, etc. So you don't have to throw all your stuff away. You don't have to be unhealthy, but try to make a difference. Try to be a source for positive. And one other thing, 2 hours and 25 minutes a day, which is the average based on the research, is way too much. Okay? What they found was healthy was 30 minutes a day. So I would say consider dialing your social media down to about 30 minutes a day and using that other 2 hours for something positive and constructive. Go get some exercise, go take a walk, go read a book, go have tea with a friend, go have lunch with a friend, do 2 hours of work that's going to lead to more income or some positive outcome. Okay? There's so many things you can use that extra 2 hours a day for that will make a huge difference in your life than just 2.5 hours a day of predominantly, not completely, but predominantly 67% negative interactions. So let's change that. All right? I bet there's way more people that want the positive than want the negative. It's just that squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. Well, those of us who want the positive, let's start speaking up and taking action for that and being heard for that. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, blessed day.